Hi, everybody. This is Kerristen, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Relocate Podcast. As you know, my podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate you if you would like, share, and subscribe to my platform. And yeah, I appreciate you for even listening, but I appreciate you even more if you like, share, and subscribe. With that being said, today I have Arthur Horton. He is a born and raised Chicago man. He relocated to Houston back in 2015, moved back to Chicago in 2019, and it's not often that I have people on this platform who relocate back to their home state, or at least their home, the city that they were born and raised in. So I'm very excited to pick your brain, Arthur, about how Chicago changed over time and just your overall outlook of how your perspective of home evolved over time.
Okay.
But yeah, before we even start, like, how are you today?
Today has been a long day just because I work in admissions at the City Colleges of Chicago. No, why am I saying City Colleges of Chicago? Chicago State University. I'm an academic advisor, and today was orientation. So between orientation and having to get up at 4 o'clock this morning to take my kids to a doctor's appointment for them and for myself, I feel like I've been burning the candle at both ends, but I'm not going to complain because I'm still here. The job got done, and now I have some time to relax before the next wave of students, which is on Monday.
Wow. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm not going to take too much of it, but just enough to get some good information from you. So we're going to have a good time for the next hour or possibly less. We'll see. So, speaking of Chicago, Mr. Chicago man, what is Chicago even like? You're from the south side of Chicago, right?
Yes, ma'am. Born and bred.
Yeah.
It's different. Um, the mentality in Chicago is if you can make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere. And that was kind of that to this day is still how I feel about it. That's why I know that everything that I learned growing up here from the time I was little, even up to now, prepared me and it's still preparing me for bigger and better things.
Was that mentality kind of like reverberated throughout the whole city, or was it just certain pockets where that mantra of if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere resonated with people?
That's throughout the whole entire city. It is.
Gotcha.
It's not just a phrase. It's a mindset and it's an attitude. That's why if you run into any Chicagoans outside of me, they're gonna say, we can take whatever you all give us and make something out of it. And also learn from whatever we're going through. Come out on the other side clean as if nothing happened.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really good to know. And I must say that I don't go to the Midwest often, but I do meet a lot of people from Chicago. Very kind people, probably some of the kindest people I ever met in my life. And I want to say that too because sometimes Chicago doesn't get the best or doesn't have like the best reputation in regards to certain topics, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't really tell just by speaking with people from Chicago. It seems like everyone's just very down to earth and very patient and understanding of other people's lived experiences. That's just from my experience of meeting people like you.
Yeah, I was, trust me, my parents raised me to be very humble, to treat people the same way that you would want them to be treated, and understand that sometimes you have to meet people where they are, treat people how we would want to be treated. But most of the time, you have a lot of people from Chicago who pretty relaxed, pretty laid back. And for the record, I will say this: Do not refer to Chicago as Chirac, okay? Please don't. Please don't, because you will upset a lot of people. I'm not trying to say I'm going to get upset. I know you would never say that, but I've heard a lot of people say Chirac, and that's not the case. It's not a war zone.
Y'all heard the man. Y'all heard him. All right. Well, know that the Chicago pride is there and it runs through your veins. But at a certain point, you did leave. You left Chicago. What led to that decision? Because I mean, hold on. Before I even get there, Chicago is a pretty. It's one of the biggest cities in the U.S. I want to say it's the top five.
Six.
Yeah, yeah, really, really booming economy. It seems like to me on the outside looking in, because there are a lot of resources there in Chicago. I maybe the weather would be the only reason that would sway me, but it seems like a great place to live. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I just gonna pick your brain about why you left because when I speak to people about places that they see themselves living in, Chicago is one of those cities that appear a lot. So, what made you want to leave?
What made me want to leave Chicago? Job opportunities, but also, I hate to say this, I had thought I had found someone, and we were engaged for a short amount of time. It didn't go the way I had expected, and going towards the end of 2015, we separated and went our separate ways, and I was not as established down there at the time like I am now up here. So it was hard after that happened. But sometimes that rejection is God saving you from something bad and opening your eyes to something else as well too.
So she lived in Houston. I gotta pick your brain some more. How did y'all meet?
Through through one of our mutual sorority sisters, because she's a Zeta and I'm a Sigma. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we
Got
all thought it
you.
was tough love, but not all the time.
Got you. I think because I feel a little hesitancy coming from you in regards to this topic, and I don't think that if you do have like shame or uh yeah, just feeling kind of down about how that situation didn't pan out. I've had I've spoken to a few people who been featured on my podcast as well, and they've moved for love as well. And I actually want to commend you for that. You took a bet on yourself. You took a chance at love, and a lot of people probably would be scared to make that leap. I know I would be, but it's great to see that there are people out there who are not afraid to do something that bold to
Well,
find love.
what ended up happening was, if her and I had actually gotten married and engaged, I would not have met the person who I ended up being with for the majority of my time after I left her. And that woman ended up becoming the mother of my two kids.
I see what you mean now by redirection, as far as, things didn't work out with that one relationship, but it opened up doors to something different. And you have a beautiful family that resulted from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, when you realized that you were getting ready to move to Houston, I'm guessing that you came to Houston at least once before you made that leap, right? Or was it just kind of like a pen pal connection until you just decided to move? Like how did that transition walk us through that? Like how did you make that transition from Chicago to Houston logistically?
So I made a couple trips down there during towards the end of the year, like in September after hurricane season was almost over, and in December right before I moved in January. So I was still up here. Um, Spoke with her. Come to find out, one of my best friends who I went to high school with, he lives down there with his family, and he and I linked up on a couple of occasions. But he was one of my supports while I was down there, and I'm grateful for him because he plays a role in my kid's life as their godfather.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm glad that there was support or people that you could lean on that you knew of prior to relocating. The situation that you moved to Houston for, even though the cards didn't fall the way that you expected, you're still able to find ways to get back on your feet, and to kind of lean on that support system for guidance through that process.
It was it was it was it was probably more of a blessing that I realized that I had enough support down there. Um, I didn't feel like I had a lot of support from family up here initially, so I'll be honest, that was one of the reasons why I was leaving, and it was also just because I wanted to get out and be on my own a little bit, live on my own, do some things, um, see what I can do in this world. Because at the time, and to this day, I still feel like it. I have a lot of potential that I have not really fulfilled, and I'm not going to leave this earth not having this vessel completely poured out, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right. Which leads me to my next question. What were some ways in which you were able to pivot from mentally, but also pivot emotionally from that situation? Like, how were you able to get back on your feet and adjust? Because you're like, not only are you kind of moving past the romantic connection that you once had at that time, you're kind of adjusting to being in the new city.
It came down to pouring myself into my job, realizing that I had goals that I needed to achieve. I had tasks that I had to take care of. Also, knowing that I'm not going to disappoint anybody, especially myself, in the process of going through this. But eventually, as I got towards the end of my journey down there, reconnecting spiritually with God and having that connection helped a lot because when I tell you the stuff that I went through, and you know, because you were down there towards the end of my time in Chicago and you in Houston, so you know exactly what happened. I'm grateful for the people that I had around me, the church, my blue and white family, and even my job. The people that were there were supportive of me because never in my whole entire life did I ever know that has anyone that I worked with ever came to a funeral of someone close to me. That's where I can go into this other part of the story. So,
I'm gonna leave the floor to you.
okay, towards the end of 2018, I was not planning on moving back to Chicago. I was planning on trying to stay in Houston and continue to rough it out because I was working a good job. Boys had met the mother of my kids. We ended up having a pair of twin boys in April of 2017, Andrew and Jordan. Around the time that the boys were born, we found out probably like about a month later that their mother ended up finding out she had cancer. And originally, what happened was the Monday after Father's Day 2017, she ended up having a medical procedure, and we thought everything was fine. We thought they had cleaned out everything. If worse came to worse, they would have had to have done a colostomy bag for her to live, but they did so much that she didn't have to. Unfortunately, life happens. You stop going to your doctor's appointments. You start trying to live your best life, but also the doctors don't make suggestions as far as treatment for cancer. For cancer, we're not talking about a disorder like sickle cell or like COVID. We're talking cancer. They don't make a suggestion for nuclear medicine, for chemotherapy, for radiation, for none of it. So what proceeds to happen is she goes through the last few months, and she starts getting sick around September and October. And so much so, it's hard for her to even take care of our kids. So, what I initially was planning on doing was taking the boys up to Houston, taking the boys up to Chicago so they can meet their family. And what ends up happening is I couldn't because she was holding on to them because she didn't want them to go. So, I still came up here, enjoyed my Thanksgiving with my family. On the way back down, as I was getting into the Metro Houston area, I get a call from her saying she was in the ER and she found out that the cancer had returned. So, me being who I am, I beelined it straight to the hospital without even going home. Come to find out, the cancer had returned and it metastasized and spread to her bone, her brain, and her liver, and it was at stage 4. And this happened around the end of November. And what proceeds to happen next, her health deteriorates. The doctors didn't go too much into detail. And what happened is the day after Christmas 2018, I find out she passes away. And that was one of the roughest things because I didn't have my kids with me at the time because she was still taking care of them, but she was with her mom and her mom was taking care of the kids. And what proceeds to happen is her mom would not let me see my kids. Why? I don't know. That's a whole nother story. But that was one of the reasons why I moved back up here to some degree. That was one of the reasons. To this day, I still feel like she was my person. And I have so much regret now because I didn't marry her. And that's something that I'm always going to live with. What proceeded to happen after the burial, like I said, I had friends, I had people from my church, I had my job come out, to support. You may not have been out there, but you had done a lot before everything had happened. And that meant the world to me, especially considering everything that I was going through. One of the things that was happening during that time, I was trying to get custody of my kids, and it was not happening. So I ended up having to get a lawyer, and around the same time that I got one, I ended up having to go to court because she was trying to get me to pay child support for kids that I wasn't even getting a chance to see. And when I tell you God works in mysterious ways, God works in mysterious ways. I say that because I know it's a fact. She didn't show up for her own court case. She did. What ends up happening? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? You serve me with papers, and you're supposed to show up at your own case, and you don't. Automatically, the judge throws it out. So I let my lawyer know after that. What proceeds to happen next? Simple. He puts in an order to try and get rid of habeas corpus. If there's any lawyers out there who understands legal jargon, that's the main thing that he said. And what proceeded to happen was we ended up setting another court date. Her papers got served to her. She never showed for her court case that day either. I showed that day, and my lawyer showed that day. And by the way, shout out to the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi, my lawyer, a Kappa. I appreciate them. To this day, I do. When we showed up to the court, we had to go in front of a judge. All we had to do was go home because my mom had come down at the time because my mom and my kid's mother were very close. And her heart was broken because she felt like that was her daughter that she lost. So she can imagine, and to this day, it still hurts. It still hurts her. It still does. But within the week that we ended up going to court, I think we ended up going that Monday. That Thursday, I ended up getting custody of my kids. And my decision to go from there was to move because I needed a better support system there. I had a better support system in Chicago than I did in Illinois. Than I did in Houston. And it was people that I was comfortable with. Plus, there were other mitigating circumstances that I didn't know at the time that was about to happen, but I found out. But when I got back up here, it was probably one of the wisest moves I made. So I ended up moving back up here in March of 2019 after I got custody of my kids. What proceeded to happen after that, about 2 months after I moved back up here, my father passed away. And I did not see that one coming. But his health had gotten pretty bad during that time since I moved back. But the other thing was this: not even a year after her daughter passed away, their grandmother passed away. And if I had not gotten custody of my kids, they could have still been in the court system, or they could have still been in the child welfare system or family services system down in Houston in the state of Texas. I was not going to let that happen. That's not how I'm built. That's not how I'm made. That's why I joke when I say this. It may have been $2,700. It may have been, I think it was $1,700 or $2,700, but you can't put a price on your kids. In this case, I did, and it was the best investment I made getting that lawyer. So those were the reasons why I ended up moving back to Chicago from Houston. Do I regret it? No, because of some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that I've seen. Do I miss Houston? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But I had to probably get away from there because I had so many memories attached to that woman when she was alive. And to this day, I still get the chills when I think about some of the places, when I think about certain things, music, food, just a lot of things up here that remind me of her and remind me of down there as well too.
That makes so much sense, all of what you said. And because I knew like you enjoyed living in Houston for the most part, but I'm actually really glad that you moved back to Chicago. Like you have a support system there, people that you can rely on to help you. Because we didn't even touch. Well, maybe you did. That you have twins. Like you have twin
Yeah,
boys.
yeah.
You did, yeah, yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure that people know you got beautiful twin boys, and they're getting tall, like
Eight
really
years,
growing.
8 years old already. I'm 4.5 feet tall. God is amazing. That's all I can say.
Yeah, very much so. I've just be walking like through this story and the moments that in which you had to face some tough challenges and adversity. First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. So sorry for your loss. And I know that you channeled some support when you were in Houston just for your mental. But once you made it back to Chicago, other than the physical support of like having your family around, what else did you lean on for a sense of comfort during that transition and to address some of the challenges that you did experience?
I didn't really have much. That was one of the reasons why I was afraid to move back. But I was able to get counseling, had friends that I could trust, that I know that they would be there. I
Yeah.
had probably my sister, God rest her soul, who died a year after my father passed away. And what was so crazy about that whole entire thing, and I'm pretty sure I've told you this, the same time that she transitioned, I almost joined her because I was sitting in a hospital bed with a blood clot in my lung. You didn't know that, did you?
No, you told me. I remember that.
But yeah, I almost ended up joining her around that time, but God said, nope, not done with you yet.
And I remember that because you also went on a journey with your health as far as like changing some of your eating habits. You've been working out more. That's the information I've been trying to pull out of you. Like you had that a change of routine as far as
Lifestyle change.
lifestyle. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to touch bases on that too.
Yeah, there was a time where, and to this day, I may not have went to exercise today, but tomorrow I probably will, probably because I'll get some rest tonight. One of the things I used to do religiously when I was at work, I would always find a way to go to work out, no matter what time it was, no matter how tired I was, but I would try to get that in. That would be my way to get a lot of that whatever it was that I had in my system out. And now that I'm able to go back and do that, I already feel the difference. I see the difference, or everybody else is seeing the difference. I don't see it, but everybody's saying you look slimmer, or you look healthier, you look happier too. First day I went back to work after being out post op, they said you came back like you look like you had been on vacation and got a tan. I was like, nope, that's just good rest. That's all it is. And the other thing was, I did, like I said, I ended up going to get counseling, getting involved um, with my kids, with my fraternity at the time, still involved, but probably not as much. With my church, but also doing what I need to do as well for myself to be better. I started my journey last fall towards my master's degree. It's not completed yet. It's just in the infancy stages, but I'm on track. But I still have some things that I have to do. I look at it like this: if I was in Houston, I don't know if I would have been able to go back to school because trying to find a university to attend to get a master's degree down there. I'm not going to say it's not difficult, but it would have been hard financially for me to manage doing all of that. Heck, I would have had a hard enough time just trying to keep these boys in order, keep them clothed, keep them fed if I didn't have the resources around here at the time.
Sure.
And for anybody that is asking, sorry, I have to say this: it is expensive living up here. It is. You have to make almost six figures if you want to live comfortably up here.
In
And I'm not trying,
Chicago.
yes, and I'm not saying that it's not possible to do it with five digits, with a five digit income. But if you have a six digit income and you're making money like that, you will be fine. But you have to choose wisely, not only where you live, but the support system that you have as well too.
I'm glad you touched bases on that because I was definitely going to ask you what advice would you give to somebody facing a similar difficult situation, that a choice that you had to make, going from a city that I'm sure that if the cards would have played a little bit differently, you would have preferred staying there. Houston's a lot more affordable, especially for families, very much affordable. But you ended up going back to your hometown with your kids. So, what advice would you give someone who's facing that similar difficult choice?
Now, because of where I'm at, I have to say this: if you have kids, you have to think about how it's going to affect them, both short term and long term. You also have to think about how it can have an emotional and even a culture shock on not only your kids but on you as well too. Because if you lived in somewhere and it's one way and then you move someplace else and it's completely different, it's a culture shock. I've lived here, so I'm used to hearing so much different things about what's happening in this city. And truth be told, it's kind of sad, but it's not as bad as everybody thinks. We're not having to dodge around tanks all the time. It's not a shootout every 5 minutes. You see crazy stuff out here, but that's just how it is in Chicago. You'll see your share of crazy things, but the biggest thing that you still see and that you still know is that there are still nice people out there. There are still people with good hearts out there. We saw that, and I saw that personally in 2017 when Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. Even in the community within our apartment and just in that surrounding neighborhood, people came there and were supportive of people who were going through. When I was working at Lone Star College, we had a lot of staff there who had lost homes to the flooding. A whole lot changed after that. How we treated people, how just we took each other in, we held each other tight, and we gave to each other what we need. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not lacking here because it is lacking here because it isn't. But that's not going to be with everybody that you see.
A sound advice. And I'm curious too, how has your perception or your perspective of home evolved over time now that you return with your own family? Because you left by yourself and you came back with a family of three. You and your twins. So like I'm sure home has a different meaning now.
Yeah, it means I don't get any peace. But my kids are attached to me at the hip, and I'm the only surviving parent. So I want to make sure that they have that, their dad loves them. But you look at things differently. You want to shield them and shelter them from the different things that you had to experience, whether it be the outside world or even people around you that are close to you that claim to be your family. And really, they only use you for their convenience until you serve them no good and they're done with you. And it's sad because when you deal with adults who don't respect you, they'll talk to your kids, but they'll treat you any kind of way, and they don't realize that child is an extension of you. You respect the child, but you don't respect the parent. That's not good. You don't respect the parent, you don't respect the child, but you respect the parent. That's still not good. You can't do it. You have to. It's one of those things that one goes with the other. They're attached, so you cannot do that. I am protective of my kids to a point, especially when it comes to other people. But the one thing that I'm learning is they're getting older, and there are certain things that I can shield them from and protect them from, but there are certain things that they have to learn and that they have to experience. And I don't like saying stuff like that, but there are certain things that they do have to experience. But I know that if I continue to do right by them, I won't have to worry about them making wrong decisions, making wrong choices, being out with the wrong kinds of people because I'm not gonna expose them to that. I'm not. And I refuse to because my father never did the same for them.
Speaking of the kiddos, what are some resources specifically for them that you've tapped into that may be beneficial for parents who are listening?
For those parents that are out there, and say you're in a situation like mine, find out if the deceased parent did have Social Security or some type of income, because I wished I had been able to tap into that. I still have not been able to tap into it since I've been here. When I initially got here, I got food stamps. I got links, so to speak, so I was able to make sure that they had food, that they were taken care of. Um, when I did get a job, it was a balance because I was working part time for one position, and if they had given me more or put me in a high, if they had increased my pay, it would have taken away from my money. Reaching out to the people in your church, taking the time to also sit down, spend time with your kids, and get to know them because you'll learn as they get older, their likes, their personalities not only start to develop, but they start to change as well too. And one of the things that I learned, both of my kids have global delays when it comes to learning. And if I hadn't noticed that, I noticed that when they were much younger, when they were like 1 or 2. So I ended up taking them to get tested, and that's how we found out. And I can proudly say they're both about to start the third grade in August. One of them even had to have the audacity to make principal scholars at the end of the second grade for him. And I'm very proud of my boys. They are growing, they are thriving, and they are pretty much the happiest little kids around. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
That's beautiful. My goodness. I just can't believe how much they've grown. I feel like it's been yesterday when you were here and they were here and they were just kind of like arm babies and now they're about to be like 10. They're like eventually they're gonna be 10.
I was talking to one of my coworkers today, and I was telling them, they're 4'5" already, and they're only 8 years old. The doctor said that they're above average for their age with that height. And then someone said, "Well, just wait what happens when they get about 10 or 11 and they're 6 feet." And I said, "Shut up, shut up. I don't need that. I don't need. I know they're gonna be tall. I just want. I just yeah.
Okay. Hey, we may need to get you back on here for another episode and talk about the kiddos once they reach that teenage years and how they're adjusting
hmm
to that transition in Chicago. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We will not talk about any more dating history because right now I think that's for the best right now. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm at peace. I'm more at peace with that than anything. I have a very big milestone coming up next month, which I'm pretty sure you know.
Do I?
I turn 50 next month. 50-year-old father of two 8-year-old boys. Need I say any more?
You got plans?
Meeting up with some friends. We're gonna go have dinner at a nice steakhouse, believe it or not, and just sit back and just appreciate the journey that I've been on, everything that I've been through, and understand that 50 years is a long time to be here. If God wanted to, He would have allowed me to go, but God said, "We ain't done yet. You got lives. You have lives to touch. You have things that you need to achieve, and you still have two little boys that need you. That need you." And we're
Yeah.
not going to talk about the amount of other people that we come into contact with on a daily basis that need us around. So we could be the one thing that's preventing them from taking that step that they don't want to. So that's why I'm grateful that I'm still here.
Yeah. Uh, what would you say are some lessons that you learned about yourself throughout this whole experience?
God made me to stand out of the crowd and not be a part of the crowd. And in the process of doing that, he probably built me a little bit tougher than I realized. And one of the things that I've learned is in this whole entire process, if God made me this way, it's going to take a lot to break me. And as I can tell you, I don't, and as you can see, I don't break that easy.
Good, good stuff. You know what? Let me rewind a bit because I asked about resources earlier about the kids, but I feel like I've stumbled upon a few groups in Chicago for dads, like dad, and I can't remember the name of the organization, but sometimes they go on walks with their kids. Like they just all get together and they go on walks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what part of Chicago that's in, but have you come across any type of support groups for single fathers or just fathers in general?
Not for single fathers. Unfortunately, some situations are different. I know mine is, but if I did find a group like that, I would love to be a part of it, especially because I have a testimony that may end up being beneficial to somebody. And it would also be a good place for me whenever I'm going through something, whenever I'm dealing with something that I would use, that I would need to kind of release or just have someone to listen, have someone not to judge, not to tell me, what they think I need to do, but just to listen and to understand. Because one of the things I have learned sometimes if you talk it out and you just have someone listen, sometimes you automatically come to the answer right there on your own.
To do some research because this is gonna. Okay, so I don't know which one this is, but apparently there's plenty. There's Black Dads Rock, the Daddy Victory Club. That's cute. That's a cute name. Mr. Dad's Father's Club. That's cute. Okay, yeah, the Daddy Victory Club. That's the one where they meet monthly at a black owned coffee shop and then they just walk with their kids.
You're gonna have to send me the contact info for that place then, because that
I
sounds.
surely will.
Send me all that information because I can.
Yep, this is the one. Daddy Victory Club. They meet at a coffee shop and then they go walking. Black owned coffee shop. Love that. Oh, this organization's been in Chicago for a pretty long time since 2007. Yeah, I'm gonna send this to you right now. But I definitely feel like it's important to highlight that for those who are listening, whether you're a single mom, single dad, whatever it may be, shoot, even if you're not single and you're in the marriage and you just need some type of support, I hope wherever you live, there are resources out there similar to these clubs that and organizations that I mentioned, and you don't have to go through this whole process by yourself. And I'm glad you mentioned too that you relied on church. I know some people aren't religious, but there are at least organizations out there who don't care if you're religious or not. They just have the resources and they want to help. So I would tap into that. You don't have to pray every day, but they still have the resources, you know? So just my 2 cents. All right, we're going to drive it home.
All
Drive it
right.
home with this one last question that I ask everyone. Your situation's a little unique. You relocated and then you relocated again. And you went from a place that you are familiar with to a place that you wasn't familiar with, back to a place that you're familiar with. And throughout everything that you experienced, the highs and the lows, what words of advice would you provide to the version of yourself back in, what was that, 2015,
Hmm.
around the time you were pondering or thinking about relocating to Houston? What words of advice would you provide to that version of yourself?
Sit your butt down and think about the short term and the long term consequences of what you're going to do. Because it may seem nice initially when you do it, but you got to remember there's a lot of growth that you have to go through. A lot. And in the process of you going through that growth, the same people that started that journey with you may not finish that journey with you. Sometimes it's not meant for people to see you through that. Sometimes it's just meant for them to be on there for a short time and then they get off. But in the process of doing that, you'll have other people that get on that ride and will want to enjoy it, stay there for the rest of their lives.
You, can you kind of break down a little bit more what you meant by sit your butt down and think about the pros and the cons of relocating? Because I'm sure there's some folks out there who are just like, I love this long distance relationship that I'm in, and I want to kind of seal the deal by having both people in one place. Could you break that down a little bit more?
Sure, it's nice and all. But the one thing that you have to do is you have to find out more about that person than just what they're letting you know on the surface, because there's always more going on than what they're letting you know about. And if you knew anything about the baggage that they had before, when you all started interacting and dealing with each other, that is part of it. Sitting down and evaluating everything, because there are probably people that know that person that you could be interested in or know of. They can know about her and they can let you know a lot more, because the irony is I found out a lot of things about her after after the breakup. And for the record, I was the one that broke it off. And I will not sit here and be ashamed of it, because there are certain things that men or just people in relationships in general should not tolerate, and that is being disrespected and being talked to any kind of way. If you're doing it from a place of love, that's one thing, but if you're doing it and you're being disrespectful, but you're also not holding up your end of it as well too, then you need to sit back and evaluate the things that you say, the way that you act, because it will have an effect on you going forward. How you view people, how you see people, how you treat people, how you interact with people. And that's part of the sit down and watch, because if you do that, you'll see everything right there and you won't have to do anything more than just make your decision going forward based off of that one simple thing. That's it. That's one of the things that I learned as I got older, was not to sit back, was not to just jump all right into everything. And as I got older, I started to wish I did that more. And I'm starting to realize now, as I've gotten older, it's just best to sit back and just watch it happen and watch it unfold right in front of you. Because as you do that, you'll see I made the right decision by not either doing this, not going here. Who knows what else? I'll give you an example. Many years ago, when I was living up here in Chicago, I was at home, like Thanksgiving, college, weekend. Me and one of my boys, we were originally going to try and link up and go out to a club that evening. And something told me just not to go that evening, right? The very next morning on the news, we heard that there was an incident at the club. You ever heard of the E2 nightclub in Chicago?
No,
Anyone
nah.
that's from Chicago can probably attest to this. It was one of the biggest tragedies to happen in the city. There was an event at a club. What ends up happening is some type of commotion happens. It's two floors in the building. And what ends up happening is people start running towards the exit, stampeding. People died from that incident, probably over 20. And just recently, they tore the building down. Mind you, this was like 2005, 2006 when this all happened. So listening to that voice, sitting back, watching, the best way to put it.
Shout out to intuition. Shout out to having that hunch to just sit down somewhere and not go out. Very glad to have you here.
I'm very glad to still be here.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I know life done took you for the loops, twists, and turns, but I'm really glad to have you here, like right now, like in this moment, as we're reflecting on your life, where you came from, where you've been, where you are now, and where you're going. Ooh, that's gonna be my last question. What's next? I know grad school or getting your master's, like that's in the cards. Very happy for you. I know that's something that you've been talking about offline for quite some time now.
This was something that their mom wanted me to do when she was alive. So all I'm doing is keeping my word to her. The only other thing I can say I'm looking forward to, and I don't know if it'll happen, but if I know God, He has a very funny sense of humor. Marriage, a good relationship, who knows? But right now, I'm just focused on getting better every day, becoming the best father that I can, and watching my kids grow up. Who knows? They may become doctors, they may become lawyers, they may become professional athletes.
It's not often that I do get to discuss relationships. Maybe a few people in the past they've discussed that like briefly and mentioned divorce, but I don't know, you got something going. I was just trying to just throw your name into the pot just in case anyone from any country listening, they're just like, "Ooh, this is a fine chocolate man with his two kids that he loves and cherishes and is near and dear to his heart, and how he's had to sacrifice and do so much to make sure that they're well taken care of. And oh my gosh, he's educated and he has a good job. Come on now. Just gonna sprinkle, sprinkle. He said he's not looking, y'all, but
I wouldn't say no if
don't
it.
be afraid to shoot your shot. He's what you say? Say it again.
I say another word.
He says the door is not completely closed, y'all. Not completely closed. You just never know. Like, never know. You never know. But I commend you. And I wish I can connect you with another guy that I featured a while back. He actually lives in Australia. His relocation story goes a little crazy, but he sacrificed a whole lot just to be there for his daughter. And maybe to him, it wasn't a sacrifice because he is just like you in a sense. Like he would go above and beyond and to to the other end of the road and back and do whatever it takes to make sure that his daughter is well taken care of. Just like you did what you needed to do to make sure that not only you were taken care of, but your twins are too. So yeah, he crazy story. He moved from Europe to Australia. And that international relocation, while going through like a divorce, and yeah, is a lot. But I wish I could put y'all two, like connect y'all two together, because kind of similar stories in a sense. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one day. We'll see.
You never know.
But I thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for having this platform for me to share my story, my journey, which is far from over. I appreciate you. No, I love you, okay? I thank you just for what you did for me that one time. Whether you realize it or not, that came when I was going through so much, and I'm blessed to have someone like you. I can say that you're a friend, and I appreciate you.
I love you too, friend. Oh my gosh. And I just want you to know that I'm always rooting for you. That's why I wanted you on this platform, because it's always great to have support. And it's one thing for like the people who are like, they may be familiar with your story, but to just kind of reflect on it, it may resonate with them a little differently. And the people who are closer to you may be more inclined to have a different perspective and more of a willingness to help, and make sure that you all have the support that you need. So I wish you nothing but the best. As always, if you need anything, let me know. Don't
You know what I need?
I know
You know
you're
what I
not afraid
need?
to reach out.
You know what I need? I need you to
What's
come up to
up?
Chicago and visit, okay? I
Okay.
got a place for you to check out, okay? It's
Okay.
on the up, okay? It's on the up. But you have to come up here and visit. Uh, who knows? From he's playing this season, we may get to see your boy Deshaun play against the Birds.
That's not happening this year. You talking about this season when the
Yep,
man is trying to heal from, but didn't he have an Achilles injury?
and I think he retoured again.
Yeah, he's not coming back anytime soon.
He should look like he was happy when he got married. Like that
Yeah, I
Achilles
saw
wasn't
that.
giving him a problem.
Oh no. Okay, you know what? He had to walk down the aisle somehow. But yeah, no, he's not coming. He's not about to play football this season. I think I am actually very much so rooting for Shador, and I wish him absolutely nothing but the best after all the scrutiny he's been through. As a matter of fact, that whole quarterback room, I wish them nothing but the best. Yeah.
It's gonna be a show. And shout out to my Chicago Bears. God help us. We're gonna need it this season.
Yeah, because y'all quarterback, he doesn't watch tape on his own. I learned
Well,
that about him.
well, we also learned that his coaches didn't show him how to properly watch it. So I'm not gonna put all the blame on him. I'm gonna put some. I'm gonna put the majority of it on them. But it's two sides to each story. No, three sides. His side, their side, and the truth. So
Yeah, we shall see. Yeah. Well, everyone, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate your time. And I am going to post Arthur's information, like his contact information, social media wise, and all that good stuff in the description of this episode. So, whether you are just wanting to seek general advice about what it's like to be in Chicago, or you think that you may have caught a fish in the sea by engaging with this conversation, you got the contact information right there at your disposal. So, this is Kerristen. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye.